Hello, this is another episode of Moraine Reads. I am Joe from the library, and I want to introduce you or remind you or reintroduce you to the great writer Sherman Alexie. And I'm going to use parts of a longer short story of his. I'm not going to read the whole thing and give it all away. It's too much fun. You should find it for yourself. This is What You Pawn, I Will Redeem. And it goes like this, or begins like this. One day you have a home, and the next you don't. But I'm not going to tell you my particular reasons for being homeless, because it's my secret story, and Indians have to work hard to keep their secrets from hungry white folks. I'm a Spokane Indian boy, an interior Salish, and my people have lived within 100-mile radius of Spokane, Washington for at least 10,000 years. I grew up in Spokane, moved to Seattle 23 years ago for college, flunked out within 2 semesters, working various blue and bluer collar jobs for many years, married 2 or 3 times, fathered 2 or 3 kids, then went crazy. Of course, crazy is not the official definition of my mental problem, but I don't think asocial disorder fits it either, because that makes me sound like I'm a serial killer or something. I've never hurt another human being, or at least not physically. I, I've broken a few hearts in my time, but we've all done that. So I'm nothing special in that regard. I'm a boring heartbreaker at that, because I've never abandoned one woman for another. I've never dated or married more than one woman at a time. I didn't break hearts into pieces overnight. I broke them slowly and carefully. I didn't set any land speed records running out the door. Piece by piece, I disappeared. And I've been disappearing ever since. But I'm not going to tell you any more about my brain or my soul. I've been homeless for 6 years. If there's such a thing as being an effective homeless man, I suppose I'm effective. Being homeless is probably not the only thing I've ever been good at. Is probably the only thing I've ever been good at. Probably none of this interests you. I probably don't interest you. Homeless Indians are everywhere in Seattle. We're common and boring. You walk right on by us with maybe a look of anger, disgust, or even sadness at the terrible fate of the noble savage. But we have dreams and families. I'm friends with a homeless Plains Indian man whose son is the editor of a big time newspaper back east. That's his story. But we Indians are great storytellers and liars and myth makers, so maybe the Plains Indian hobo is a plain old everyday Indian. I wander the streets with a regular crew, my teammates, my defenders, my posse. It's Rosa Sharon, Jr., and me. We matter to one another if we don't matter to anybody else. Rosa Sharon is a big woman, about 7 feet tall if you're measuring overall effect, and about 5 feet tall if you're talking about physical. The whole story started at lunchtime when Rosa Sharon, Jr., and I were panning the handle down at Pike Place Market. After about 2 hours of negotiating, we earned $5. Good enough for a bottle of fortified courage from the most beautiful 7-Eleven in the world. So we headed over that way, feeling like warrior drunks. And we walked past this pawn shop I'd never noticed before. And that was strange, because we Indians have built-in pawn shop radar. But the strangest thing was the old powwow dance regalia I saw hanging in the window. That's my grandmother's regalia, I said to Rosa Sharon and Junior. How do you know for sure? Said Junior. I didn't know for sure, because I hadn't seen the regalia in person ever. I'd only seen photographs of my grandmother dancing in it. I'd seen, and it was before somebody stole it from her 50 years ago. But it sure looked like my memory of it, and it had all the same colors and feathers and beads that my family always sewed into their powwow regalia. There's only one way to know for sure, I said. So Rosa Sharon, Jr., and I walked into the pawn shop and greeted the white old man working behind the counter. How can I help you? He asked. That's my grandmother's powwow regalia in your window, I said. Somebody stole it from her 50 years ago, and my family has been looking for it ever since. The pawnbroker looked at me like I was a liar. I understood. Pawn shops are filled with liars. I'm not lying, I said. Ask my friends here. They'll tell you. He's the most honest Indian I know, said Rosa Sharon. All right, honest Indian, the pawnbroker said. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Can you prove it's your grandmother's regalia? Because they don't want to be perfect. Because only God is perfect. Indian people sew flaws into their powwow regalia. My family always sewed one yellow bead somewhere in their regalia, but they always hid it where you had to search hard to find it. If it is really my grandmother's, I said, there will be one yellow bead hidden somewhere on it. All right, then, the pawnbroker said. Let's take a look. He pulled the regalia out of the window, laid it down on his glass counter, and we searched for that yellow bead and found it hidden in the armpit. There it is, the pawnbroker said. He didn't sound surprised. You were right. This is your grandmother's regalia. It's been missing for 50 years, Junior said. Hey, Junior, I said. It's my family story. Let me tell it. All right, he said. I apologize. You go ahead. All right. It's been missing for 50 years, I said. That's his family's sad story, Rosa Sharon said. Are you going to give it back to him? That would be the right thing to do, the pawnbroker said. But I can't afford to do the right thing. I paid $1,000 for this. I can't give away $1,000. We could go to the cops and tell them it was stolen, Rosa Sharon said. Hey, I said to her, don't go threatening people. The pawnbroker sighed. He was thinking hard about the possibilities. Well, I suppose you could go to the cops, he said, but I don't think they'd believe a word you said. He sounded sad about that, like he was sorry for taking advantage of our disadvantages. What's your name? The pawnbroker asked me. Jackson, I said. Is that first or last? He asked. Both. Are you serious? Yes, it's true. My mother and father named me Jackson Jackson. My family nickname is Jackson Squared. My family is funny. All right, Jackson Jackson, the pawnbroker said. You wouldn't happen to have $1,000, would you? We've got $5 total, I said. It's too bad. He thought hard about the possibilities. I'd sell it to you for $1,000 if you had it. Heck, to make it fair, I'd sell it to you for $999. I'd lose $1. It would be the moral thing to do in this case. To lose $1 would be the right thing. We've got $5 total, I said again. It's too bad, he said. He thought harder about the possibilities. How about this? I'll give you 24 hours. Where did I find that? To come up with $999. You come back here at lunchtime tomorrow with the money, and I'll sell it back to you. How does that sound? It sounds good, I said. All right then, we have a deal. And I'll get you started. Here's $20 to get you started. He opened up his wallet, pulled out a crisp $20 bill and gave it to me. Rosa Sharon Jr. and I walked into the daylight to search for $974 more dollars. And now the clock has begun to tick, and there will be either hourly or every few hour reports on what happens in the next 24 hours. I'm not going to give you any idea what it is, and I'm certainly not going to tell you the end. I'm going to tell you again that the name of the story is What You Pawn, I Will Redeem, and it's by Sherman Alexie. It's just one example of his great works. Again, this is Moraine Reads. Thank you for listening. Keep on reading. Bye-bye.